Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Today I want to do a little Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game review of some older supplements from the early days of gaming when things were still kind of gonzo and kind of unorganized. And I'm going to be a little bit unorganized myself in this video. It may end up being a long one, but if you're into the old school gaming, you probably dig it. Especially if you haven't seen these books before. This is All the World's Monsters, edited by Jeff Pimper and Steve Perrin. Now, Steve Perrin, if you're into old D&D, you'll probably know that name. Did some cool stuff, and part of the world of Greyhawk. Perrin Land, I believe, is named after him. So there's a Volume 1 and a Volume 2. And we're going to take a quick look at both of them. Well, relatively quick. Now, first thing you'll notice, a little bit different than the average book, the way it opens. Hopefully we're not going to have too much trouble with it focusing on these things. All the World's Monsters, edited by Steve Perrin and Jeff Pimper, for use in fantasy role-playing campaigns. Second edition, 1981. Copyright 1977 and 81 by Chaosium Incorporated, all rights reserved. Printed in the US of A, etc. So, what we have here is material from those real early days when the game was not ossified as it is today, and frankly today it's also been transformed almost beyond recognition. I mean, some of the terms are the same, but the rhythms are all completely off, and it doesn't seem like they understand what the point of the game was. It's developed into sort of a shambling monster, a gibbering mouther, if you will. In these days, it was still a game about primarily of dungeon exploration. I mean, that was the game. Everybody took on this persona of a fantasy character, and you went into this mega dungeon created by the dungeon master and started unraveling it and started exploring it and started, overcoming traps and getting around monsters and sometimes fighting them and getting treasures and increasing in levels so you could go deeper and deeper and deeper, and that was it. It wasn't designed with meta plots. It wasn't designed for big characterization. In fact, a lot of the early characters were, a little bit tongue-in-cheek even. But what was great is it was this brand new toy to play with. And so there was all this room for creativity and for invention. And it had rules that lent themselves to that. Everything wasn't so standardized, and super well defined. And so, like a lot of monster books, we have sort of an index, and then we get to the heart of the thing. Now, because of the way this lays out, there's no really good way for me to do this. I can move the camera a little bit. I don't know too much. Here you can see on this page, we have an image of the air squid carrying a little guy away. Maybe I'll kind of do it like this so you can see a little bit of both pages as I go through. And so we get, the pretty basic stats that you expect in older Dungeons & Dragons, plus a little bit more. You get your hit dice, armor class, move, fly, and swim. They put them kind of separate. And we get some interesting stuff. Like we got IQ range. So you could kind of assume that's like an intelligence score. In Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, you got an intelligence rating that was sort of like, animal, semi-low, average, high, genius, super genius. I don't remember what all the terms were. Here they give you a range. For a giant ant, for example, it's 1 die 4. For an Ant-Man, it is 2 dice 6 plus 6. I'm sure that's, Not meant to be insulting to Paul Rudd. They also gives you a dexterity range. Not sure why. You didn't need that in the old days with monsters, but one of the early things that you started seeing as soon as the game started coming out, you had some people kind of going gonzo, full creativity, make stuff up. It was very liberating not to have 400 statistics that you had to nail down for everything. And then you had the group that wanted it to be more realistic. And, combat should be a lot more complicated and should take a lot longer, down to every single swing of the sword, blah, blah, blah. So you had a divergence really early on. And truthfully, the majority of the older schooler gamers were moving more towards the more complicated stuff. So into the world of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, but also into the world of what was it called? The Palladium, and stuff like that started getting things more granular. So that was right off the bat that these kind of changes started happening to the game. And I think when the old school Renaissance came along, it really did tend to go more towards screw all the stats, let's just be creative. And so you also get alignment, you get found in, and so these are like places where you'd find this creature for the Ant-Man. Dungeons, outdoors, that really nails it down. Rivers, swamps, cities. In other words, just about everywhere. You get the percent in lair, which in early editions was misspelled liar, and people thought that it was the percentage chance that a monster would lie. It was the percentage chance that when you get a random encounter of that monster, that it is in its lair. Because if it's not in its lair, maybe there'd be fewer of them, but there won't be any treasure, really, unless it's stuff that they carry on themselves, like orcs might have some copper coins in their pouches. So that was kind of a big deal. And you get probability of treasure and type and the number, and that's about it. Then you get to the attacks. In this case, for the Ant-Man, 2 hands, 1 die 10, 2 stings, 1 die 6 plus 4 die 6 poison, 1 bite, 2 die 6, hit at -2. So in other words, a -2 penalty to hit when biting. That's 5 attacks for each Ant-Man. And they potentially have up to 14 hit dice. So, man, Dan Pearson did not make a wimpy little creature. Now this one also has a type. So for giant ant, it's giant insect. For Ant-Man, it is alien. So these are apparently aliens. That was something new as well to the game. You didn't get that in a lot of the official TSR versions. Something added. That's kind of fun. And then finally you get the description. And so in the old days when creating a monster, again, you push out a few basic stats that you need. And for most, it would be the hit dice, armor class, movement, alignment, and its attacks. And you didn't need much more than that, really. So the description is where you'd come in with, like, what its special powers were. And again, they weren't all predefined for you. You didn't just say it can hug. You kind of had to describe, well, what does a hug mean for like a bear? How does that work? And so I know a lot of people prefer where everything is predefined for them. I got to be honest with you, I kind of like when it isn't. It's a little bit more fun because you can create different ways that different things work to keep the game interesting, so that the players don't go, oh, this creature can do X, Y, and Z. Well, we know how to counter that. So you get a whole lot of very interesting creatures in these. It tells you who created them, because these do come from, I believe, different magazines, fanzines, a lot of them at least. And some of them are recreations of creatures, monsters, what have you, from established, shows or books or what have you, and they'll tell you that as well. So here we have a Banshee. You do not get a picture for every single monster. And I'm going to just kind of go through and see for the things that really, really impressed me. I initially started to put like little pieces of paper in for what I found interesting, and I ended up, there's just too many of them. So here's a creature called the Behinder, which you gotta love the name right off the bat. Type is miscellaneous, created by Steve Henderson. 6 to 8 hit dice, armor class 2. So remember, this is the older armor class. So I believe that would be like an armor class of 18 using the ascending method. Movement 18, that's 18 inches. IQ range, dexterity range, don't really care. Alignment, hungry. Yeah, back in the old days, you could just be kind of silly with this stuff. Found in dungeons, rivers, swamps, cities. 5% chance in lair. In lair 1, with 100% probability of type A treasure. Wandering, number encountered 1. Attacks, 1 bite, 1 die 12 paralysis, 2 claws, 1 die 4 paralysis. So let's see the description on the Behinder. An indescribably hideous creature, it is sensitive to ESP and telepathy and will not attack a party which is using either. And remember, psionics was still part of the game. It was a little rough at this point. In 77, yeah, you probably would have had the psionic stuff somewhere. And even if you didn't, you had like the helm of ESP and things like that. It always attacks the last in line. The sight of the beast paralyzes, or, if save versus spells made, slows for 1 full turn. It will try to spirit away the last in line before anyone notices. It has the power to place the suggestion, fall behind, in its intended victim's mind. Save versus spell. It hides in shadows and moves silently like a master thief. And remember, we had level titles back in the day, so Master Thief means something. And I believe that would probably be a 9th level thief. So there you go. It's a lot of the monster is in the description. Kind of an interesting one, too, the way that the thing, goes after the last in line in a dungeon, creeping up and getting them. And you could do a lot with a monster like that, because it doesn't necessarily have to kill them. It could be capturing them, taking them somewhere, could be working for, an evil wizard deeper in the dungeon or what have you. You can do a lot with these creatures, and people often forget that now. It seems oftentimes now to be a combat game, that's the entire point. You're supposed to fight everything you meet, no matter what. And hence, the game's broken, because if you fight everything you meet, you die too often, and dying's not fun. Well, no. You're not, in the old days, you weren't supposed to fight everything you met. You generally want to check for the reaction to see if it was friendly or hostile. And if it was friendly or neutral, you'd work on trying to, maybe get information from the monsters, maybe forge an alliance with them, things of that nature, to try to get around having to fight everything. That was kind of the point. That was part of the role-playing. And again, that's just sort of become lost these days in the game, and so funny as it is, you often hear about how the game is broken, and more often than not, or the older game, I should say, game wasn't broken. People just weren't playing the game. It's like trying to use a hammer as a screwdriver. There's nothing wrong with a hammer. You got the wrong tool for the job. Let's check out this next one, though. Blast Puppy. A Blast Puppy. And it basically has some heavy psionic abilities. Looks like a small, innocuous dog. It often will rabidly attack for no good reason. It has 113 psionic strength points and will only use its psionic powers in the presence of other psionics, using theirs. It has defenses of mind blank, blah, 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 blah. But you gotta love it. Blast Puppy. Red Blob, which is type cleanup crew, which is what they referred to the oozes and all those creatures before. Bloodworms. Blue Horror. Blossoms of Primordial Life. Enormous flowers with fluted bronze stems and great leaning beast-like blossoms with carmine throats. That's great stuff. Blutschink. Blue Pool Horror. Brown Ick. Part of the cleanup crew. Here's the Coachman of Death. Oh, I love this. Carnivorous Typo. The favorite pet of magic-hating men and monsters. The typo is 2 feet across with white and black swirls in its fur. It does not fly, it leaps. It has long limbs with which it can pin the arms of any human with strength 10 or less. It also has a long, blood-sucking tongue. And it has a higher armor class apparently against magic. Usually attacks magic users. Any magic user who throws a spell in the presence of the typo has a spell level divided by magic user level plus 3 chance of scrambling the spell. The spell will not work, but he loses the appropriate number of spell points or the use of the spell depending on what magic system is used. So it sounds like it causes the magic user to mess up their spell. Let's move a little quicker here. We got an ice demon. Love the art. I love old school art. Line work, it's not mega professional necessarily. But I don't know, like, to me, D&D should be like, garage rock down in the basement. I don't like it being overly professional. And you notice too with the demons, demon class 1 ice. So you have the kind of like the type, demon class 3 ice. Greater demon, lesser demon. Demon 12th Plane by Steve Perrin. I imagine a lot of these things come from maybe like Perrin's dungeon and a lot of these people's dungeons. Chrome dragons, crystal dragons, rock dragons. There's a cold elemental, rock dragon, wind dragon. Ebon Doom, created by Chuck Cady, a type of demon. And some of these get quite a big description, and some of them don't. Death Elemental, I like that. I did a lot of crazy elementals in Blood and Treasure. Oh, I like this one. Evil Shark, type Undead. Found at a depth of about 80 feet in thin seaweed, where the visibility is under 20 feet. It's a shark-shaped ghost of a low-level evil cleric. Oh, I like it. I like it. The Ezwal, furry blue carnivores with 6 legs and effective claws and teeth, usually found in the wilderness and occasionally underground. Very fast, with frost giant strength. Does not like machinery, does not like other Ezwals. There's a Fury. Fjorn, son of Dunarth. The Fink, the Fearstalker. The Furred Flyer, the Fury. There's the Fury's actual stats. The Flap Frog, an elephant-sized frog with stubby wings that allow it to glide a fair distance. It does not fly, it jumps. It tends to eat giant insects by preference. It has a continual mind blank operating at all times. There we got some kind of genie. Colony Ghoul. A cold, rubbery creature with long limbs. It travels with a warlock wraith as his servant. If either the wraith or his servants are in danger of losing their life, the wraith will give knowledge of life level increase or some of the magic pearls he always carries. The wraith has at least 5 spells of either a mage or an evil high priest, referee's choice. The ghoul has strength 1 die 3 plus 15 instead of the usual 3 die 6. So these are obviously folks that are using some ability scores for the monsters, which again you don't really need to do. But I'm telling you, the old school stuff's liberating because you can create a new monster just in seconds. You just need a few bits and pieces for it. And again, the descriptions are just whatever comes to mind. We have a whole lot of golems in here: tar, ice, quicksilver, radium. Love it. And there's always that little bit of sci-fi mixed in with the fantasy back in the day. There's a monster called a Gondor. No relation. The Goo Tree. The Grokon. Giant ground octopus. Oh, there's a heavy trooper, which I'm assuming is just a large and heavy-set humanoid. He wears black and blue scale armor with a black cape and boots. He carries a basic heavy trooper pistol, which fires 20 explosive bullets, doing 4 die 6 damage each. It has 2/3 of the range and accuracy of an arquebus, and where you're getting the arquebus, I don't know, but those stats are somewhere. Love it. 5 hit dice. Love it. Heavy trooper, and he's apparently also has a hand that just works very oddly. Oh, you can't see that. Sorry. Let's bring the heavy trooper in a little bit. We also have the Heffalump. And I'm sure a Woozle's in here somewhere. Horned Bellflower, Hellflower, Nighthound, Deathhound, Hades Hound, Phase Hound, Rockhound. Not messing around with the hounds. Oh, the Ice Person. I dig that. That's very cool. Dan Pearson created that one. The Ice Wolf. Oh, look at that. Jamont. Horse and lion combined. It is very fond of elvish flesh. It is among the most loyal of mounts when tamed, but it must be captured very young. It is only rarely found in deserts. So don't go looking for one in a desert. Jubal Cain. That is awesome. The Jugger. Slow-moving Vance Dragon. Okay. Oh, here's a great one from Dave Hargrave. The great Dave Hargrave. The Kill. Little green-furred rat-like mammal which runs in a pack like piranhas, attacking all in sight, regardless of their size. Immune to all mental and emotional spells and powers. 1d4 hit dice, but, you know. Oh, yeah. So, wandering 10d20 monsters. So that's one of those weak creatures that you put at a lower level of a dungeon. And you can imagine them just migrating through, eating everything in sight, and then maybe sleeping it off or something. And so now as the PCs, well, you want to stay out of their way, but how do you use that to your advantage? Is there maybe some way we could lure them into fighting the dragon on that level, or something like that? That's the fun of these old mega dungeons. It was so freeform. We also have the image of the Killwing, which is very groovy. The Lowen. The Kitty Hawk. Cross between a bobcat and a hawk. Sean Cleary. Liebear. A lion bear centaur. Well, naturally. Life Cloak. Silicon Lion. Lash Lizard. Long-horned Murderer. Long Liquor. We don't need to look anymore on that one. Here's a Mole Man. Morse. A very large mutated cross between a horse and a moose. All I know is I want to play in that world, and I want to have a dwarf mounted on a Morse. Or, I don't know, maybe some kind of barbarian. That's not my main object in life. We have the Night Gaunt. Because, again, we're at that early stage where there's so much stuff to be created still for the game. And up here is the Nerve Flayer. I tell you what, I have a lot of people who are nerve flayers in my life. There's Nyarlathotep, created by K. Jones, type God. 100 hit dice, -20 armor class. Pretty high IQ, pretty high dexterity. Attacks as whatever he appears as. He's chaotic or chaotic evil, found in dungeons. Orgoyle. Orgone Drainer. Olohai. So this kind of gives you an idea of this early phase of gaming, and that was wide open, very freeform, very creative. Nothing was too goofy. Oh, I love that. I love the knight here. Let's see if I can bring it more. There we go. Being attacked by quelts. What's a quilt? Well, it's created by Dave Hargrave, so you know they're insane. Helmet-sized and shaped beasts that change color to match their surroundings. They have retractable eye stalk, claws, legs, etc., kind of like turtles, I guess. They will set up opposite each other along a corridor in a room. Anyone passing between them will be struck by the lightning bolt, which passes from one to the other. That's fun stuff, because then, okay, how do we get past them? What do we do? And I know, in modern thing, well, I attack. There should be a spell for that. Well, no. There often wasn't a spell for that. And attacking wouldn't necessarily work. You had to be creative. That was the point. The point of the thing was to solve problems and be creative about it. And the first thing you didn't do... Oh, giant shrew. Nice. The first thing you didn't do was look at your character sheet. Velvet slime mold. Mouthing slug. I don't know what that means, but I am upset by it. There's the Sphinx. Stats anyways. Spider dragon. Oh, I like it. Stingwing. Starling. Giant mutant starfish. Oh, that's my stuff. I got some of those in Blood and Treasure, I can guarantee. Sun devil. Swamp slime. A sylph. Oh, there's a trog. I like it. I like it. That's sort of a troll thing going there. The three horsemen of dawn. Demigods. Somebody's got some demigods from their campaign. Tiger. So he had some basic stuff. The tiger of righteous wrath. The ice tiger. You know, you get these books, and you're good for monsters, probably for the rest of your life, if you're playing various games. The Mound White. Oh, I like it. Look at this dude. Bring it over. Yeah. Hopefully that is focused enough. The Mound White. That is cool. Dig the art. Can't read the signature, so I'm not sure. Alright, so there you go. What do we have? The Henderson Monster Creation Table. Nice. So you can just go ahead and invent some creatures there with all sorts of special abilities. I gum it. I cannot. There we go. And monster level chart. So you needed this when you were making your dungeons. Level 10 monsters, level 13, because it wasn't just like a level in terms of what level you were as characters. The level also, of course, referred to the level of the dungeon you would expect to find the creatures. All the World's Monsters Volume 2, we'll do a little quick thing through here. Maybe look at some of the art. This one I noticed, though. Oh, and we also get the Perrin conventions here. Those were for, you know, doing combat a little bit differently in D&D. So what do we got? We got the Air Shark. And this one I noticed did have, and maybe I'll catch one as I'm going through. I think this one had more creatures based upon stuff from literature. Or Aurora Energy Monster created by Jim Ward, and it gives you Dungeoneer issue 4 alarms and shoot. Alarms and what the heck is the name of that? Oh. Hold on. I can't remember the name of that old fanzine. I failed as a geek. Okay, somebody throw it in the comments. Anyways, but it tells you the issue of older, magazines, fanzines. There's the Boulain. That is very cool. I would totally use that. Oh, I'm pointing again to a picture you can't see. Wisely. Check out the Boulain. Oh, that's awesome. Got bar guests. Bionic Paladin. Let's see. Let's find out a little about the Bionic Paladin. 10 hit dice, armor class 0. He has stone golem strength and is hasted at will. He has infravision, x-ray vision, detect invisible, radar basically, and radio. He is lightning resistant +4 and fire and cold resistant +2. That would be for saving throws, I would assume. He has a lance and a sword. Oh, okay, here it is. Based on a Roger Dean illustration. Yeah, that was one I wanted to bring up. There's a whole bunch of bionic creatures based on Roger Dean illustrations. That is old school D&D, boys and girls. That is like, dude, that picture's awesome. I'm making it into a monster. Carbuncle, some kind of a... Well, I think it's based a little bit on the old thing. The Dartwing, I kind of dig that. Death Dwarf. Oh, from Warrior at World's End by Lynn Carter. I actually enjoyed those. Those things were nuts. Yeah, read the World's End books. Lynn Carter. Man, they're like fever dreams. The Draconets. Here's the Herb. Don't know if that's related to Edgar Rice Burroughs. Oh, the Fire Newt. The Fire Newt, created by Steve Perrin. Which, yeah, different from the ones that ended up in the... Yeah, that makes sense, because those were in the... Those were in the Fiend Folio, and that was all drawn from, like, White Dwarf. From the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. There was some creature called a Foulmouth. Dig it. Gangbat. Ghost Shark. Godstalker. Love it. Garlic Bread Golem. Hey, listen. Sounds stupid, but could be helpful if you're going into Ravenloft. Think about it. And you go, but that's ridiculous. That's, yeah. Old D&D could be quite ridiculous. Bad puns and a lot of goofy stuff. The Harvest Man, look at that. Dude, a spider with like human fingers and a skull. Come on. That's good stuff. That's D&D. And we got a picture of an imp sitting on a skull. Christ Hodden. Or Christ Hodden. I don't know how you pronounce that. Is that based on anything? From Doomfarers of Coromond by Brian Daly. And that's another cool thing about this book. Just like the old, was it Appendix N? Yeah, you could pull up some books you haven't read and get some tips. We have the Lamia, Locust's Lung Dragon, which is probably lungs, not like a Chinese word there. It has a small head and large group of air sacs. The Morgul. I love the way you get this crossover back then with like the kind of art you would get on knockoff action figures like the Lincoln Monsters. That's the Narwhal. So we got basically bees that you can be mounted upon, which I'm down with. The Ornithohippus. Dude, is that not that's an awesome piece of art by Loftus, 1977. Oh, I miss these days. Oop. Pseudo Woman, which probably could get me in trouble. Razormouth. Dig it. Oh no, Scrubble Scrubbing Bubble. No freaking way. That is awesome. Scrubbing Bubble. Created by Skip Davis. And we also have Scrubble, which is maybe like their leader. Oh, the Scrubble is a giant form of insane scrubbing bubble. So it's not like the normal rational scrubbing bubbles you would run into. It maintains pristine cleanliness. The bubble only leaves its hole when the item it maintains is dirtied. It then attacks everything in sight and scrubs them spotless. It does not like the smell of soap, and so will avoid a freshly bathed person or creature. Dude, I don't know what dungeon that popped up in, but how great is that? That's fun, man. And if you're young and you don't know what the scrubbing bubbles are, look it up on YouTube. You can find the old commercial. Those were some of my favorite commercials as a kid, along with the Raid, the roaches. Raid! We would shoot lightning at the roaches and kill them all. Stardust Potato. I don't even know. Strange Little Man. A form of sentient mineral life. Looks like a small hunchback gnome with glittering black skin, long pointed ears, and a huge nose. Resembles more than anything else a small golem made of coal. Oh, that's from Barbarian of World's End by Lynn Carter. It's been a long time since I read them. Oh, Swamp Thing, created by Dave Hargrave. Sorry, DC Comics. The Trivern, which basically is like a three-headed wyvern. Maybe it'd be Trivern. Thunder Bunny, created by Dave Hargrave. An insane form of jackrabbit. Again, unlike the normal, rational jackrabbits one discovers. Oh, this is great. Ugly. A form of, human. The chaotic assistant of evil magic users. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Oh, check that out. Vader. No relationship, probably, to Star Wars. It's a big blue panther with antennae. I dig it, though. So, you have just an unbelievable number of monsters to choose from here. There's the Zimchak and the Yurtzel. The Zapper. And what's that? Pingarian? You got an unbelievable number of monsters here. Unrestrained creativity, as only old school D&D could give it to you. In short, if you can find these books, and I got these in an auction on Goodwill at a really good price. If you can find them, get them. I don't know, they're probably out there online somewhere, but that's not as fun. And throw some, curveballs at your players. Believe it or not, you could use these monsters more or less in 5th edition D&D. Typically, what I had to do when I ran a game one time for my daughter and her friends who were trying to learn 5th edition. And I said, listen, I'm old. I have no interest in 5th edition D&D. I have no intention of learning the rules. However, I will teach you how to play D&D. You guys use 5th level characters, and I'm going to go ahead and run. I ran like an old school module, and on my side of the table, I was using pretty much the Blood and Treasure rules, more or less. So basically old school type D&D stuff. And they use the new school stuff on their side. And the only real adjustment I made was giving the monsters more hit points, kind of almost maxing out their hit points. Because of the sheer amount of damage that 5th edition characters can whip out, even at relatively low levels. And once I did that, it was a pretty good balanced game, and I just fudged things when I had to, just sort of, let them roll their skills and then figure out how it works out. And on my side, I just sort of typically would go, give this monster a 2 in 6 chance of doing something, and it worked fine. So you could, even if you're playing modern versions of D&D, you could use these books. You can make use of them. You could convert the monsters, or just sort of, especially if you're an experienced DM, just do it by the seat of your pants. Throw them some stuff they're not ready for. Give them a taste of the olden days. They might enjoy it, and who knows? Maybe they'll even show some interest in going to a more rules light system. But that is all the world's monsters. Edited by Jeff Pimper and Steve Perrin from about 1977, 78. I believe this is a first edition of Volume 2, second edition of the first volume. Super fun books, and they really take me back to the old days of just gonzo D&D. If you love that era, dude, go find these copies of these books if you can. You'll probably have a ball. You get some great, great suggestions for fantasy literature in here, and there's a bunch. I scratched the surface. I didn't want to go monster by monster. Obviously, a video would be like 4 hours long. So I just scratched the surface. Check these things out; they are totally worth it. Is it alarms and excursions? That seems wrong to me. Okay, if you know the name of that fanzine, because my 51-year-old brain has forgotten somehow, I think. If you know that, throw it in the comments. If you have any memories of these books, if you've ever used any of these monsters, I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you have any questions about any of this as well, I would be happy to answer them in the comments. Love getting comments. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. Maybe think about subscribing to the channel. I cover all sorts of old pop culture, including role-playing games. Maybe share with a friend. That would all be very cool. Helps me grow the channel, which I would very much like to do. And in the meantime, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have some fun out there. Perhaps throw some scrubbing bubbles at an adventuring party that's composed of, I don't know, half-orcs. They might be stinky, I guess. I don't know. Hey, look, I'm not trying to get in any trouble with the half-orcs out there, but it seems like that might be their vibe. So have some fun out there, and I will see you next time in Dad's Den. Hey, look, it's me. Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.